you last year at the Olympia. I think it was on the Thursday at the Expo. And I remember there was a point in the interview and you kind of paused and you said, and you kind of looked me straight in the eye and you said, all I'm saying is I can't remember the exact words, but you seemed quite confident there was going to be a new Mr. Olympia. Is that something you weren't telling us?
You know, Sean was pretty bold on my channel.
Yes, he was.
This is, yeah.
And, you know, he said, I'm going to expose Phil Heath. And I remember seeing Sean probably 3 weeks prior at Gold's Venice, and I saw Chris Psycho Fitness, and I told him, I said, listen, man, the key to Sean is his transitional poses with his stomach. If he can hold his stomach in and work on those transitions, and I know he killed him on compulsories. He killed him. He made him, you know, practice. And you know what? I just felt, Phil, you know, you get to that point because I've been there, you know, your efforts to show how you look aren't necessarily, you don't practice as much. You're just like, okay, I'm Mr. Olympia. I've done this all over. And practicing that posing is huge. And we know Phil had an issue with the distension the year prior. We've seen it slowly growing, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously he mentioned the hernia, which a lot of us didn't know, but the year prior he said he went in for surgery after. And that was a big question mark because he said it's going to be fixed, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. If it's not fixed, those judges are looking at it because I know the rumblings I heard through all years off Phil's stomach's going to be a little tighter. So that stomach was, if it was sticking out a little bit, then there was a big problem. And I felt leading into the show, you know, we might see a new one, whether it was Sean or someone else. I mean, he was pretty confident.
So you weren't sort of like, okay, I've seen Sean, so I know he's looking that good.
No, I didn't.
So it was a feeling rather than, because it was more because Phil, you felt that he hadn't had the stomach fixed. That was the issue.
Yeah, I think that was the big question mark.
Right,
but
okay.
You know, you get up to those big numbers, man. Phil was going for 8 or whatever, man. You know they get a little more critical with those guys, and that's a record, man. 8, they're going to be a little critical to pass that tie record on to someone. I mean, you saw me break the streak with Ronnie where he was going for 9 to hold the overall record, and I'm sure that was so disappointing for him. It was exciting for me to be the first, you know, and really be the first guy to beat a guy on stage. It was pretty amazing, but you know, like I said, I mean, we've kind of had now, you know, the big thing happened this year. It's if you interview me on Thursday, I'm not so sure I'm going to sit there and tell you Sean Rhoden's winning this thing for sure, which normally is the case, right? We'll see how the show transpires and what the rumblings are, but you know, Sean didn't look, I mean, from my understanding, Sean didn't look like Mr. Olympia 3 days out from the show either. I mean, it came down to
3 days.
3 days out, he wasn't like that. He looked on stage. Trust me, he was not. He became, like, in that last 24 hours, he transformed a lot. Like, it's dialing down. You know, it's peak.
Yeah.
I mean, and Phil Heath, man, Phil Heath won a lot of those poses. I mean, you may question if Phil Heath won or lost that show. I know how you are. You're a bodybuilder to the core. Does Phil Heath have better shots? Absolutely. Absolutely, Phil Heath is a more dominant body on that stage. It's just the problem is the midsection just slipped.
Yeah.
And they really had their eye on that, and they kind of pinpointed that. And I can see Phil being like, man, I won this thing. But I can also see, hey, you know what? They were looking at something different, you know, and the midsection really kind of sealed the deal for him.
Plus,
you know?